People are saying that Jimin is coming out. We also have a new label allegedly exposing Jimin and JK's relationship, as well as members of BTS apparently leaving the label. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Disci. Let's get into it. Now, it's been a while since I've talked about the label and their stock, but we definitely need to get into it and give a little bit of an update on this. Of course, I am talking about HYBE, and the boys are partial owner of the company. Each of them received, I believe, about $16 million worth of shares. So in total, it's about over 100 million that they received, and they owned at one point above 1% of the company. People like to diminish what 1% actually is, and they tend to look at it and say, well, clearly BTS does not own a significant portion or doesn't really have much say in the company. But keep in mind that 1% of a huge company like that is extremely significant. Do they have the power to completely sway the company or override any other shareholders? No, absolutely not. But 1% of a company does grant them a lot more power than I think a lot of people realize. The boys may not be able to be part of every single executive shareholder meeting, but they would be part of the annual meetings in which some decisions are being made. They get to add their input on that. This is extremely significant and a lot more than what a lot of artists get to do, because a lot of artists don't even get a voice when it comes to what direction the label has to go in or will go in. Now, just because BTS might raise their voice and say that they want the label to go a certain direction doesn't mean that the label will in fact go that direction, but their voices are being heard. They get the opportunity to speak about this direction that perhaps the other shareholders might not be thinking about, and definitely other artists don't get a chance to do. Recently it was announced that some of the other members sold some of their shares. This was the elder line. It was J-Hope, RM, and Jin, I believe. They sold a pretty decent amount of their shares, and as to what they decided to do with that money, we have no idea whether they wanted to invest in other labels or if they just wanted that money for their own business endeavors. We have no idea. But of course, at this point, I believe BTS may not have 1% of the label, and they may have a lot less say in the label. However, at one point, I wanted to emphasize that they did have the power to potentially sway or influence the company in a significant way. And so a lot of people like to say that they didn't and that they don't get a voice in the label. And I just think that that is extremely incorrect. Aside from the fact that they own 1%, no one would also be able to tell them what to do. Imagine a manager who owns nothing going up to BTS and saying that they cannot do this thing or that they have to do this. The boys quite literally do not have to listen to the managers, and they have a much bigger influence on the direction of the company, as I said earlier, than a lot of people want to believe. Because if they were to believe that, they would have to believe that the boys are multimillionaires and are super powerful and don't need protection, and that is the truth of the matter. They don't need our protection. And I truly do believe that when it comes to things like this, or things like them allegedly feeling abused in the label, they definitely do not need our help by any means. However, what I will say that they could use our help for is changing social issues. There's a lot of people who believe that Jimin might be on the LGBT spectrum, and that is really up for debate whether you want to believe that or not, as none of them have come out and said anything. However, I want to add that if he were to be part of that community, I can definitely see it being a huge risk for him to come out or do anything. He is in an extremely homophobic country, and one that would definitely not be accepting at all if you were to come out and be queer. Some people have doubted that if he were actually to be a part of the LGBT community, if he would make it very obvious, because a lot of people like to point out things and say, well, he does this, so that means he's part of the community. And other people argue and say if he was, he would definitely not make it super obvious. One of the reasons is they believe that Jimin is an extremely private person, and he often doesn't even like to show his other friends to his community or to the public. I believe this is true because we've met JK's friends, we've met some of V's friends, and we've met, I believe, some of RM's friends. And of course, I'm talking about friends outside of the group, but we definitely have not met any of Jimin's friends. And that all could be done by design, where Jimin might not want his friends public. So this tells people that Jimin doesn't like his personal life being public. And if he were to actually be part of the LGBT community, he likely would not make that public. I definitely believe that, or can understand that, especially in a country that is extremely homophobic. You're definitely going to want to be more private with some of those things, but also just the fact that Jimin is a more private person would imply that he wouldn't show any of that stuff. People also forget that there definitely are straight people who are a little bit more effeminate and thinner and likes to do things that maybe people consider gay, like dancing or whatever. And we tend to judge people for these interests or these things, but honestly, how I like to imagine people is I just like to think that they have no sexual desires. I do not see them as a person who is gay, straight, or any of that stuff. It makes me uncomfortable to envision people as sexual beings all the time, and most of the time I just kind of see people as just like a person. Of course, one can make jokes all the time, which I've definitely done, but truth be told, I don't actually just automatically see people as sexual objects. And I think that that is a route that we can all go towards or move towards, where we kind of see them as people first, and then if they give us any reason to think otherwise, then we might think otherwise. And I think there are moments in which it's appropriate to think otherwise, right? Because, for example, if you were to take someone whose profession is a stripper or an adult film star, it would be almost weird to not think of them as a sexual object, right? And the same thing could apply if a celebrity decides to go in a more raunchy direction with their music videos or performances. But outside of that, we have to see them as more than just a sexual object, right? So I don't know if I think that Jimin would actually come out and say that he does like men or that he's part of the community or whatever. I think he would definitely try to hide that and not be open about that. And likely that will be something that he just does when he isn't doing music anymore. If anything, it would be one of those things where we would never know. It would never be something that is publicly written. It's just something that he does in private, kind of like how we don't know when he uses the bathroom or whatever. I really do believe it'll be something like that. But people have also been freaking out over other moments in which they believe that Jimin has shown signs of him being in a queer relationship or potentially being married to someone already. And that person is none other than JK. So both of them are in the military right now, but that doesn't mean that they can't do things. And they're likely going to do things together because they've enlisted in the buddy system together, meaning they probably talk to each other pretty often or every day and decide what they want to do every day since they're talking to each other. I imagine it as one of those things where if you and a friend were to embark on a journey together and do something kind of difficult like enlisting or whatever, and you were to spend every day together, you guys would probably come up with plans or schemes, whatever you want to call it, where you guys do things together. So for example, if you know someone who is sick, you both might end up sending something because you're both talking about how they're sick, and you're both kind of like, well, I'm going to send something, so are you going to send something? And then you do it. Whereas if you guys had chatted about it and then you guys didn't see each other for a really long time, one of you might send something, but the other one might not think to do that, or might not feel pressured to do that. I don't know if that makes sense or if you really understand why I'm bringing this up, but you will in a second. Basically, there's a new label that we don't really know too much about, but both Jimin and JK decided to send their congratulations to this label. The label then posted the congratulations on their social media pages, and a lot of people freaked out when they saw that both of them had sent something. Now, I don't know how real this is or if this is made up, but I'm going to take it as they both did send something. People online were then freaking out about this because they believe that in Korea, you only send things together if you're a married couple. So they believe that the action of them doing this implies that both Jimin and JK are now officially married. Now, if you do a quick search or look this up, two people sending something together is not solely the action of someone who is married. Two friends can send something together, and it just means that two friends are sending something. It's interesting because there were people who were definitely claiming that this was the action of two people who were married. And if you just kind of read it and you don't really think about it or look into it, you might actually believe it because you're not familiar with the Korean culture. And then you hear someone say, in Korean culture, this is what this means, you're more inclined to believe it. However, to me, it's very strange, this whole thing in general. So you're telling me if me and my sister wanted to send a friend a gift or congratulations, it means that me and my sister are married. What if me and a classmate were to send something to a teacher? Does that mean that we're married? So I just thought it was very strange, and I just wanted to look into it and kind of make sure. And really, there is no general rule for this particular thing. I don't even know if it's more of a societal rule either. I don't believe the general population believes that if two people send something together, that they're together. But perhaps I am wrong, and I would definitely love to hear your thoughts on that. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos linked down below. Thank you to this lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.